I do think that it is shocking that a co-op called council has behaved in this way. There's still time for some of those long-term residents who are still there to be saved from having to give up their homes. But we need this strength of everybody, and thank you so much for coming up. Thanks to Julian, Trace, Maritza, all of the people who put in so much time and have actually, you know, had no life whatsoever in the last few years fighting this. And it's just a shocking indictment of what's happening in our society in 2018.
I live in this street. I'm lucky to own my house. We're losing the community. That all these people who've lived here for up to 40 years are my friends. I'm just watching property developers, I don't know who, taking over this street. It's like a building site most months. The whole thing is disastrous in terms of community.
What I want to say is, it doesn't make sense, even on paper, because if you are taking away housing, and then you're going to use that money supposedly to create further housing, it doesn't even add up. You have to pay that. You have to pay £100 million to make a block of flats to house 50 people from 50 houses. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's complete panic, short-term thinking because of the squeeze. And the squeeze doesn't make sense either. Anything short-term is against people. It's pro-rich people. It's pro the banks and away from everything to do with the public. And climate change is not even thought of, but green economy is about communities, about keeping communities intact. When these things hit us and we've got to deal with, hopefully we can stop it, but this idea of everything short term and break everything down and get a quick profit, it is just killing us. It's terrible. And no council with any sense of real value of the value of people would be selling houses for money and breaking down a community. It is absolutely disgusting, and these people are not thinking things through. They've got their heads in a box, and that box is coming from the government about squeeze and rubbish. Meanwhile, what are they doing down there with the pavements? We don't even need those pavements. You know, I mean, it's so bad.
Bring solidarity greetings from Lewisham. Lambeth is not the only council, I'm afraid. And 2 years ago, Lewisham People Before Profit, who fully support this action by Lambeth United, we actually occupied 5 houses the council was trying to sell off. And by acting swiftly, it's a different situation to here, where people have lived in them for a long time. We did get the council to change their minds on that. They were refurbished by local tradespeople with apprenticeships, and they are now able to be let out to some of the families on the waiting list. And just last week, we attempted a bold move by building a small house, a cabin, on wasteland that had been left derelict for 6 years, despite having planning permission for 170 houses. And unfortunately, the council managed to demolish it just before we got there. Guy's photos give a good account on his website. But we have to fight back on these things, and we have to work together across boroughs as well.
Public opinion is the thing that is going to save everything. The public has to get engaged with what's happening in this country.
Very good. Apparently very much on sale to the highest bidder, or not even the highest, really, any.
Can we have one more thing here from Maggie, please?
I'd just like to say, on the grounds of humanity, this so-called cooperative borough of ours seems to be behaving in the way that I can only describe as the closest thing I found to Jack the Ripper.
Definitely a rip-off.
I work for Icaro Housing Cooperative, which owns and manages almost 60 properties in Lambeth. We've submitted proposals twice to Lambeth Council that we would buy the properties off them we would keep them in cooperative ownership, we would take people off Lambeth's waiting list, and they have turned down our offers.
Shame.
We could have saved a lot of these homes and allowed the people who've been living here for many years to remain in their homes. Lambeth will not talk to us about it.
And also save dragging us all through the courts so that Lambeth can get possession. I mean, that's another waste of money.
Very expensive.
How much have they
lawyers.
spent on court costs, lawyers' fees?
And the profits they're making, the massive profits they're making from selling off these homes, is not being used to rehouse people. It's not being used to build more social housing. It is being swallowed up by their vanity projects.
New Town Hall.
New Town Hall, for example.
Can I just say something? My name's Councillor Judy Best. I'm a Lib Dem councillor in Lambeth, in Streatham, and what I want to bring to attention is what the Cooperative Labour Council is doing to our sheltered housing, because a lot of our elderly people in these sheltered housing are being forced out in what they're calling extra care homes. I've been to several meetings with the pensioners in these sheltered housing units, and they are absolutely scared to death. They do not want to move. They've promised that they will have a look at the situation, but they're not listening. I was under the impression that the cooperative was supposed to be working with our residents, or listening to our residents, and doing what the residents wanted to do, not bombarding them and bamboozling them in doing things that they don't want to do, such as leaving these homes here. So I'm here to support that, and I'm also here to support our pensioners in Lambeth who do not want to leave their sheltered housing units. Thank you.
On a similar point, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the only Labour councillor who is supporting this cooperative has been deselected by her own party. I thought politics was where people voted in a democratic fashion to have their interests represented, not party political greasy poll. It's completely wrong. They're not representing the interests of the people who may or may not re-elect them in May, and the only person who has stood by this has been deselected by their own council.
This is LILLIESSHALL Road.
As the councillor who was deselected, I have to just keep saying that where people in the local community have committed to work with the council on projects such as the cooperative housing, in some cases they've done it up to 40 years, that no matter how I look at it, the council must respect that kind of commitment, and it must, even at the last minute, do something to minimize the damage that is being done to the whole community.
Some of you may know that tomorrow, outside the GLA headquarters at 2:15, there's a demonstration supported by the Radical Housing Network, which includes the Lambeth Group, Southwark, Lewisham, Brent, Hackney Renters, many groups around London that are concerned with housing, and it's to tell Boris Johnson not to go to the MIPIM trade fair in Cannes, in the south of France, the following weekend, which is all about bringing foreign investors to buy up the new properties that are being built in cities like London. This is one of the things that puts the prices out of reach of ordinary people. In Lewisham at the Gateway project, some of those places have been bought not even as buy to let, just to buy, because the value will rise to add to somebody in Malaysia or Shanghai's portfolio of foreign investments. It's a disgrace.